Chapter 8. Reflections. Asami. Asami sat in the corner of the mostly empty storage room in the back of Korra's parents' home, with Naga there to keep her company. The concrete floor around her was scattered with a meager assortment of tools. A hacksaw, a roll of tape, a twisty old hand drill that looked like it was past its prime a century ago, and half a dozen wrenches in different sizes. A box of bolts, nuts, and washers lay open in the corner, serving dual purposes. First, as a paperweight to hold down a page torn from her sketchbook, which would otherwise drift across the room every time Naga wagged her tail, which she did quite a lot. And second, more simply, as a box of bolts. Wiping sweat from her forehead, Asami glanced over the sketch, then back at the wheelchair that had been the center of her focus for the past 3 hours. It had only taken 20 minutes at most to affix the lamp and battery she got in town to the right side above the wheel and wire it to a simple switch that stuck out vertically at the end of the armrest. That wasn't enough, though, and she knew it. Asami could do so much more if only she had the tools, so she and Senna had scoured the house for whatever they could find that might be useful, piled it all in a corner, and Asami got to work. Her first extension of the project had been something for Korra to practice her grip exercises whenever she was sitting idle. The left armrest was totally empty, and there was no sense in wasting space. What she really wanted was one of those round rubber air pumps doctors use to pressurize the armbands during blood pressure tests. Inflation bulbs, she recalled. If she could get one of those, pressurize it and seal it, then just bind it to the armrest at about where Korra's hand would naturally be when she was at rest, everything would be perfect. She didn't have an inflation bulb, though. All she had was a ball, Naga's ball, specifically. Even her smallest was a bit too large for these purposes, but Asami thought she could work with it. The air pressure had to be just right, able to give meaningful resistance when Korra squeezed it, but with enough give that she could actually complete a full flex of her hand. As it turned out, play balls made for pets were not designed with variable air pressures in mind. If Asami had access to her shop, she could have made it work. If she had access to her shop, she would not have needed to resort to using suboptimal parts at all. But she did not have her shop, and she had no other options, so her attempts to jury-rig the toy into something equivalent to her ideal material resulted in one deflated play ball and one seriously bummed-out polar bear dog. The idea had been a bust, but there was still more she could do. There's always more I can do. A few tweaks had been added here and there, most notably a water bottle affixed to the wheelchair's back. Asami drilled a hole through its cork just wide enough to thread a line of surgical tubing through while still being sealed. The tube itself ran along the inside of the left armrest, where it could be stuck to a fastener Asami bolted on to hold it. Whenever Korra recovered enough feeling in her fingers to be able to maneuver the tubing, she would have easy access to water whenever she needed it. Upon filling the bottle and testing the system herself, Asami had been proud of her work for all of 10 seconds before returning to her sketch and getting back to work. The real pride piece was her work with the seat. A simple cushion had been her first addition, as the chair originally had none, instead being lined with a faux leather pad. That hadn't been enough, though, so Asami removed the added cushion, opened it up, and, after stripping the wiring from every piece of scrap electronics she could get her hands on, lined the inside with a repeating zigzag of medium-gauge wire. It formed a circuit connected to the lamp's battery and on-off switch, with enough resistors to keep the current and voltage at the right level to produce enough heat to be comfortable while still being safe. The padding inside the cushion had to be replaced with something non-flammable, just in case, but Asami triple-checked her math, on the floor with some colorful chalk she'd found on the shelf, and was certain there was no danger. The whole process was messy, ugly, and more than a little frustrating with her limited tools, but she got it done. It was only as Asami finally finished stitching up the wired cushion that a thought struck her. Most of the cushion's heated surface area would be in contact with the backs of Korra's thighs. Her legs that she can't feel anymore. Asami didn't even bother to salvage the wiring before throwing the whole thing out. I can do more, she insisted to herself. There was always more she could do to help. There was always some little thing she hadn't thought of yet that might make Korra's difficult days just that little bit easier. Just enough to make a difference. Just enough to make Asami's presence here worthwhile. But Asami couldn't find it. And even if she couldn't make it. With the proper plan and the right tools, She could do anything she set her mind to. But now, she was fumbling blind, turning a boring but functional chair into a loud, ugly mess. And for what? So Korra can drink water easier, she tried to tell herself. But another part of her pressed. Is that even a problem that needs solving? After cleaning things up as best she could, Asami wandered back out of the storage room with Naga in tow. With Korra asleep, no chores to be done, and no other ways to make herself useful, she stumbled toward the living room and collapsed onto the couch with a groan. Rough day, huh? Asami looked up to see Senna sitting in the chair across from her. Somehow, Asami had walked right past her without even noticing. Don't worry about me, Asami said. I'm just being dramatic. Everyone's allowed to be a little dramatic sometimes, Senna said plainly, taking a sip from a steaming mug that Asami assumed was tea. What's got you down? Nothing important. I didn't ask because I thought it was important. I asked because I wanted to know. Asami frowned, staring off into space. Same old story, I guess, she admitted. I just wish I could do more. Senna reached over to scratch Naga behind the ear. The polar bear dog flopped happily to the floor beside her chair. Project didn't go well, then? Asami chuckled mirthlessly. Oh no, it went great. It was the second and third projects that fell through. I should have known I was going too far when I found myself doing circuit calculations on the floor with 15-year-old chalk. She blinked, then added, Sorry about that, by the way. I cleaned up as best as I could. Senna shrugged. I'm glad someone's getting use out of it. It must have been left over from before the White Lotus moved Korra to the compound. She gestured down the hall, vaguely in the direction of the storage room. Most of her old kid toys are in there. We couldn't bring ourselves to get rid of them. Too many memories she never got to make, I suppose. Asami finally realized she was awkwardly splayed out on someone else's couch and sat up straight, good posture, holding eye contact, giving her host her full attention. That must have been so scary for you when they took her away. I've been scared for years, Senna said. I guess after a while you just get used to it. She set her tea down on a side table and grinned. Enough about me, though. What's this about you doing math on my floor? I was trying to make Korra a heated seat for her wheelchair, Asami said. Maybe trying isn't the right word. I did make it. Then I realized that with her legs as they are, she'd barely be able to feel it and the whole thing was pointless. Asami sighed but didn't slouch. She wasn't supposed to slouch. I think I'm at my limit with that stupid chair. You and Korra both, said Senna. Asami laughed. Her more than me, I'm sure. They were silent for a time. Eventually, Senna vanished into the kitchen and returned with a cup of tea for Asami, which she gratefully accepted. When Senna sat back down, she did so on the couch beside Asami. Sensing the offer, Asami almost thought better of it, until the little black-haired girl in the back of her mind urged her to take what she could get. After taking a sip of her tea, she scooted a little closer, and Senna put an arm around her. I wish I could do more, Asami muttered, watching the steam rise from her cup. I wish I could make her feel better. Senna patted her on the shoulder. You do make her feel better. Asami shook her head. It's not enough. It's like I'm just patching up the holes. I feel like there has to be something I haven't thought of yet, that'll make all the difference in the world, but I can't think of it. I keep trying and trying, but everything I come up with either falls flat or barely changes a thing, and it just makes me feel so stupid and useless, and I don't know. Asami rubbed at her eyes and was pleased to find them dry. Sometimes I wonder why she lets me stay here at all. For a time, Senna made no reply. Instead, she held Asami close, running fingers through her hair in a way that seemed distantly familiar. Finally, she said, You know, a few weeks ago, I stumbled upon the two of you in Korra's room, sound asleep with the light still on. I remember that day. A flicker of warmth came to life in Asami's chest. I got her this cute little comb down at the market, and then she just passed out on my shoulder while I was brushing her hair. Her face flushed and she smiled. I couldn't bring myself to move, so I sat there with her until I fell asleep too. Moments like that are worth 1,000 times more than any fancy custom wheelchair, Senna told her. You really are too hard on yourself, Asami. Maybe you don't realize it, but these days the only time I see my daughter smile is when she's with you. Suddenly, all too aware of how red her face must be, Asami looked away. No, I guess I didn't realize that. And how does knowing that make you feel? Asami thought for a moment. It makes me want to help her smile more. That's a great idea. Just don't forget about your own smile. With a laugh, Asami replied, I'll do my best. I mean it, Senna said. It's good to want to take care of someone you love, and it's also important to take care of yourself. Asami's eyes widened. Senna smiled softly. You're really good for her, Asami. I'm glad she has you. Me too, Asami heard herself say. I'm glad I have her too. She spent the next few minutes huddled against Korra's mother, sipping her tea while her brain buzzed excitedly and butterflies danced in her tummy. Senna's voice broke the silence. I have an idea. When was the last time you took the time to do something fun, just for yourself? Just for me? Asami considered it. Probably close to half a year ago, honestly. Senna squeezed her shoulder. I want you to go out and do something fun just because it's fun, she said. Anything you want. Fun felt like such a faraway concept that Asami struggled to come up with anything. I guess I could go into town. Any recommendations? If you want my advice, don't bother with anything in town. There's a lake north of here that's absolutely beautiful this time of year. We're at the South Pole, Asami said. Everywhere is north of here. Senna laughed. True enough. Go past the line of stones down the path, turn right and look for the mountain that kind of looks like one of those farming hats they wear in the Earth Kingdom. Sedge hats? Asami offered. Probably, Senna agreed. Anyway, it's a few miles down that path. You'll definitely want to take one of our snowmobiles. Oh, and bring Naga if you wouldn't mind. The poor girl could use some exercise. Asami sat up and stretched. That sounds great, but I've never driven a snowmobile before. Oh, please, Senna grinned at her. A smart girl like you, I'm sure you'll figure it out. As it turned out, Senna was exactly right. After dressing in layers and bribing Naga with some treats, Asami walked outside, took one look at the snowmobile parked behind the house, and quickly pieced together how to start and ride it. She threw on a helmet, Senna made her promise to wear one, and set off toward the lake with Naga close behind, a pale full moon shining down from above. It didn't take long for Asami to spot the mountain Senna told her about, silhouetted darkly against the starry sky. She drove in its direction, gliding over the snowy hills as they rose and fell, their slopes lessening the further she traveled. A few times, she stopped as she crested a hill to make sure Naga was still following her, always finding the polar bear dog only a short distance behind her. If anything, Naga looked annoyed with her for stopping, so Asami decided there would be no more pauses until she reached the lake. When she did, it was difficult to tell at first. When Senna talked about it, Asami had envisioned something like a deep blue pool tucked away between the snowy hills. While it may have looked that way in summer, the lake Asami found looked more like a great pool of ink. The water was as dark could be. From a distance, it appeared as if the ground had simply given way, leaving a pitch-black chasm behind. As she got closer to the water's edge, she saw more and more reflections of stars on its surface, along with a lantern in the snow and the headlights of another snowmobile shining back at her. Asami slid her vehicle to a stop and dismounted, just in time for Naga to come barreling up behind her. Naga, stay! Asami shouted, fearing the polar bear dog would dive into the lake for a swim. Senna would be less than pleased if Asami brought her back soaking wet. Rather than heading for the water, Naga banked left and shot like a rocket toward the other snowmobile. Asami's eyes followed. She heard Chief Tonrock's voice just before she saw him. Whoa, good to see you too, he said to Naga as she skidded to a stop beside him. Naga lolled out her tongue, panting excitedly, as Tonrock stepped forward and pulled his lantern up from the snow. Asami, I'm surprised to see you here. Let me guess, did Senna send you to come find me? Oh, no, Asami shook her head. She wanted me to do something fun and suggested I come here. I'm not sure if she knew you'd be here or not. I see. Tonrock nodded. Well, I don't know if I'd call this place fun, but it's a good spot to clear your head if nothing else. Asami put on her best smile. With how crazy things have been recently, clearing my head sounds about as much fun as anything else. Yes, Tonrock sat sideways on his snowmobile, gloved hands on his knees. Thank you again, by the way, for everything you're doing for Korra. I know I don't say it enough. Asami sat on her own vehicle. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, she said.
I wish I had that conviction.
Tonrock's gaze turned out over the water.
But here I am, running off to play in the snow, while you and my wife bear the brunt of my daughter's care.
He grunted, shaking his head.
Some father.
Asami thought for a moment. Tonrock was right. Aside from days when she woke up early or stayed up late, she hardly saw him in the house. Senna would always assure her that he had things to attend to, and that he was managing things in his own way. But Asami wasn't blind. Korra missed her dad, even if she hadn't said as much. Why don't you? She asked, suddenly frustrated. Questioning Chief Tonrock's parenting choices may not have been the most polite thing to do, but Asami couldn't keep the words in. Help Korra out, I mean. Back when she was hospitalized, you spent as much time with her as I did. But as soon as she woke up, it's like you just vanished.
You want to know the horrible truth?
Tonrock kept staring out at the lake.
Just seeing her makes me angry. I know it's unfair. I know more than anyone. But seeing how hurt she is, how tired she is.
His features tensed, as if he were about to attack something.
Just knowing those monsters are still alive, after what they did to my little girl. It's too much, and if I let it show, I'll just make her feel worse.
That was something Asami could understand. At least Sahir is back where he belongs, she said quietly. He'll spend the rest of his miserable life chained up under that mountain. Tonrock's voice fell to a low growl.
That's not the kind of rotting in the ground I'd have picked for him.
Asami nodded in agreement. It makes me sick that they're keeping him alive, she said, frowning. He deserves to die.
Him and all the rest of them, Tonrock said. A handful of his underlings escaped. Lynn and her sister have been hunting them down one by one, but from what I've heard, it's been slow going.
Asami hated thinking about that. They'll find them, she said, for herself and for Chief Tonrock. I know they will. Tonrock closed his hand in a fist.
Even if they do, it won't change what happened. There's no punishment that would truly be justice.
No, Asami sighed. There really isn't. The two of them were silent for a while. Naga rolled around in the snow between them, seemingly without a care in the world. Asami wished she could be so lucky.
You're right, though, Tonrock admitted. After Korra woke up, I don't know. I couldn't face her. I don't know how to look her in the eye and tell her everything will be all right. How can I say that if I'm not even sure I believe it myself? The last thing she needs is for me to lie to her.
It's not a lie, Asami said firmly. Korra is going to recover stronger than ever. Thinking to offer some evidence and maybe hope, she added, Her grip strength is getting better. I've been helping her work on it. She even took a bath by herself the other day, for the first time since she was abducted. That's real progress. Maybe not as quick as you or her would like, but you can't deny it. To her surprise, Tonrock glanced at her and smiled.
You really are everything my wife says about you, Asami. My daughter is lucky to have someone like you in her life.
She's lucky to have you too, Chief Tonrock.
She might be, if only I would stop hiding from her, Tonrock said. It's not fair to her, but I'm afraid I'll only make things worse. I've never had the same self-control as Senna.
He looked back out at the lake, to the cold shimmer of stars reflecting on its surface.
I can't compartmentalize things the way she can. I don't know if I'd be able to stop myself from feeling the need to talk about things Korra doesn't want to discuss with me.
What things? Asami asked. And how do you know she wouldn't want to? Tonrock only shook his head.
I just do.
For a moment, Asami tried to piece together what he could mean, but soon decided it's none of my business and moved on. I spend almost all my time with Korra, she said. Right now, I think she feels lost. She has this long road of recovery ahead of her, but it's like the whole road is covered in tall grass, so she can't see how far she has left to go, or even how far she's already come. She did her best to smile again. She has me, and she has her mom, but I think having another anchor, another person she trusts who can tell her she's going in the right direction, could make a big difference for her. After a long pause, Tonrock said, You are a very wise young woman, Asami. Asami's forced smile felt a little more real, if only briefly. My own father. He's not a very good man. I'm sure Korra told you about him. about his role in the equalist movement. She flinched at the memory of her father cursing her, his shouts drowning out the din of metal crashing against metal. I now see there is no chance to save you. He even tried to kill me when I refused to take his side. That's awful. Tonrak looked at her sadly. I'd heard bits and pieces, but... Even still, Asami continued, even after I realized what a bitter, monstrous person he had become, I still miss him. He's my father, and he's the only family I have left. She rubbed the wetness from her eyes, as was expected of her. I can't cry. I won't cry. Korra has a good father. A great one. I can't even begin to imagine how much she misses you. Silence fell between them. Asami chose to let it stay, so that her words may hopefully sink in. Finally, Chief Tonrak spoke. You've given me a lot to think about. I'll work on things on my end. I'm sure you're right that Korra misses me, and I miss her too. Asami grinned. Maybe this is how I can finally start to make a difference. Whatever it is you need to talk about, I think you should do it. It'll be good for both of you, she said. And thank you for letting me speak my mind, Chief Tonrak. He surprised her with a laugh. Asami, please, just call me Tonrak. You're practically part of the family at this point. For a fleeting moment, Asami's heart felt fuller than the moon and brighter than the stars. As Naga sat up and shook off a fresh coat of snow, Asami and Tonrak mounted their snowmobiles and readied to leave. Their return trip felt shorter than the journey out. By the time they arrived, Asami was already running through the things she would need to check on and help with, assuming Korra was awake. Somehow, even though her sojourn to the lake was supposed to be what reduced her stress, the prospect of returning to Korra's side gave her more relief than anything else ever could. She and Tonrak stepped inside, and Asami was immediately hit by a wave of warmth. Senna must have had the furnace going on full. Just one more thing to thank her for, she thought. As Asami began peeling out of her extra layers, Tonrak spoke up beside her. I think I'm going to go to bed early. Will you check on Korra for me? He looked at her, his eyes hard with something like determination. I'll go see her tomorrow. I promise. Don't worry, Asami said. I'll take care of her. I know you will. Tonrak smiled. Before I go, let me offer some advice in return for yours. He patted her on the back and said, You're really good for her, Asami. You should tell her how you feel. With that, he turned and went upstairs. Asami watched him go. Even without her extra layers on, she felt like she was burning up.